Stay home.
everyone would stay home and do Zoom.
There's not a single quiet room at my house.
You step on the ice just right, you go zoom.
That's true. True. Okay. A little after 6. Welcome, everyone, to the Providence City Council. Today is January 17th, 2024. Wow, who'd have thought? The time just keeps marching along. We're glad that you made it. It didn't keep snowing all day, but I understand we're gonna get some more. So thank you for being here on this snowy day. For roll call tonight, we have Jeff Nebaker, we have Janelle Seeley, Carrie. Oh, who's behind you? Brent Speth, Carrie, Kirk, and our new council member is David Coons. So welcome, and I'm Kathleen Alder, the mayor. So let's have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will lead you in the pledge, and Janelle Seeley will give us an opening prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful that we could gather together as a city council to discuss the needs and the issues for the residents in our city. We're grateful for our staff who works hard to support the things that we enact, and we're grateful for everyone's safety in coming here tonight. I'm grateful for the snow that provides moisture for our community, and that we can make good decisions and have good respectful dialogues and solve the problems and help those that we serve. And we say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So officially, we need to swear in our new members, and they're Brent Speth was reelected to his position this last go around. Carrie Kirk was reelected to her position, and David Coons is our new council member. So right now I'd like to swear. Do I do them all at once or one at a time?
You do them all at once.
Wow, get a bulk discount. Okay. Okay, so I think what we'll do is go down front. You guys can stand in front and I'll stand at the microphone. And we have to have a picture for our newsletter.
Oh, great. It's a little rough.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that you will discharge the duties of your office with fidelity?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You're our new council members.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Didn't know whether to say I do or yeah.
Did you get a picture with it? Yes.
Ryan got something.
Perfect. Welcome. We will try to make this first council meeting of the new year a really productive and short one. So we'll start with the council reports. And so, Janelle,
My council report. I have been attending LPC legislative session, started yesterday. So just trying to keep track of all the comings and goings of the state legislature, try to keep them in their lane. So,
and out of our lane.
and out of our lane, in their own lane. So we'll be kind of watching several things there. I know council assignments is kind of farther down on there, but on the council assignments, there's kind of a breakdown of, we all share the load of tracking the legislature. It's helpful. I think they'll have different sections to watch, but, last year, I think they did over 500 bills they enacted into law. So they keep just adding more and more. They're getting record speed there on their bills, so. One of the things that, the messages from the last LPC meeting on the 9th was just to kind of get the word out to our residents and to our fellow council members that it's an election year for these state, senators and representatives, so they need to know that people are paying attention to what they're doing. If we aren't happy with the state laws that are being enacted, then we should get engaged with what they're doing. I had a library board meeting and I met with the Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company. And they're getting ready to do their annual meeting in February. I think that's all for me.
Okay, Brent?
Well, I too, I didn't go to the Blacksmith Fork Irrigation meeting. That's gonna be one of my new assignments. Janelle and I've talked about the transition here on the city side, and I've talked with the president, Blaine Furman, about the transition. I'll be attending the shareholders meeting in February. And so I will, I guess, assume that role from you. Is that what we decided?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will assume that role. Okay, on emergency preparedness, right now, there is a new program, somewhat new program starting. It's called Whole Community Preparedness Coalition. So the unfortunate thing is they meet the same time as we meet here at City Council. Their meeting starts at 6:30. I will see if I can't get some way to find out what's going on at that meeting from Will Lusk, but what is this is entails a coordinated meeting between government, home, business, church, school, and volunteer organizations to be able to understand what each organization needs, what the plans need to be, how to meet the needs. And so, yeah, this entails the whole community. And we have got a pretty fair start with our relationship with the church and what we're doing here at City Hall. But this will involve some other groups and especially schools. Schools in an emergency could be a major concern, and we'll have to look at that. So anyway, the next thing I want to let you know is that CERT training starts March 5th. In North Logan. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays, runs about 8 weeks. Anybody who would be like to be CERT trained, and this is the Citizens Emergency Response Team or training. Anybody would like that, certainly can get with me. We can get you a contact in North Logan and we will get you signed up for that. Another thing, ham radio operator licensing day is offered January the 27th at the Cache County Sheriff's Complex, 3rd floor classroom. Anybody who's interested in that can do that. Our current disasters that we're dealing with are snowstorms, cold temperature, and wind chill. We are at a blue alert, pretty much with the cold temperatures. And there is a homeless shelter set up here in Logan at St. John's Episcopal Church, 80 East. 100 North, and if anybody was so inclined to want to volunteer at that organization, they could contact them and see what could be done. So, and I too am kind of gearing up to watch what bills are applicable to me as I go through the legislation. That's my report.
Great. I'm certain trained. certified.
Good.
And I would recommend that if there's anybody in here that would like to do that, or if you know of anyone that would, serve our community.
I know of two, besides you, there's two others, myself and Chad at Colburn is trained.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been cert trained.
I probably need to
What's
do
the
the
date on
CPR.
that again?
It is March the 5th and it goes Tuesdays and Thursdays. Runs about 2.5 hours a night, maybe 3. And it's Tuesdays and Thursdays and they finish up at the training tower. Let you go through the training tower, and at least they did when we went down. You learn how to deal with fires and putting a fire out with a fire extinguisher and a few things. So is that what they did
How
with
many
you?
weeks is it?
It runs about 8 weeks, I
6
believe.
to 8 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. They culminate, is at about the first part of May, just right at the end of April, first part of May, that's when it culminates. And they give you a little helmet and a vest to wear and teach you how to go out and put red and green tags in windows of homes if you're working with a group, if you have an earthquake, and what home's livable and what's not. And it's a good training. First aid,
Good information, yeah,
good information. Thank you. I didn't know you'd been trained, Mayor. That's good.
yeah. A while ago, I might have to do CPR again though.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
nobody have a heart attack right now.
yes, let's not do that. Okay, Jeff?
Sounds like this will be my last chance to report on mosquitoes, so I will.
Frozen.
Yeah, I went to the last meeting and we had the manager's annual report. Where the report is mosquitoes trapped and count of 25,468 plus or minus one mosquito, I don't know. But that was 8,944 more mosquitoes than last year. So it's probably because all that water we got. And total acres treated 9,586. And they did get a drone system in place, so they used part of their money, and the drones are covering 177 acres, 10 hours of flight, 174 flights that help them go after those
So the
mosquitoes.
drones can
So-
carry a sprayer, huh?
Yeah, they go out,
Wow.
they got the camera and they get those spots that are hard to get with the ATVs, so. It's been exciting.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I've heard it.
that's all. for
Okay.
today.
Thank you. Carrie?
Just a couple of youth council things. I was hoping we could add the Easter egg hunt to the events calendar for March 30th at 11 and 12, and then, ask people to sign up for a hunt so that we can kind of control numbers and get people at both. And then we're just trying to get a date set for the day at the legislature, and I'm grateful for the work that Janelle and Kathleen do. Keeping track of bills that affect cities, and it's the amount of hours that
Huge.
they put in and that staff puts in tracking the state stuff is crazy. And like, I can barely stand to scan what they're doing and look for things that I'm responsible for. So I'm so grateful that you're willing to read them and keep us abreast when we need to be. Thank you.
I'm working with, Senator Wilson's intern. I have a call into him, but I will be at the legislature tomorrow. I have to present, some budget stuff for the conservation board that I chair, and I'm planning to track him down. I want to do the 16th. I realize you won't be here that day,
Great.
but David has, agreed to act in your stead.
February 16th. That's great. And we'll work to recruit some parents.
But
Yeah.
don't publish that yet until I've talked with
Okay.
him tomorrow.
I'll wait.
But if I can track him down in person, then I'm not playing phone tag with him. So anyway, hopefully we can get that done. Do you have a report, David?
I'll make one up.
So you really weren't a council person till just now, so.
Right. Well, I have been meeting with Ryan Snow bi-weekly to just try to get up to speed, and he's been extremely helpful to me and willing to share and answer all my crazy questions, and so I appreciate Ryan for doing that for me. We also went together to Utah League of Cities and Towns. Mike, listen up, get closer.
Yeah.
The Utah League of Cities and Towns put on a training for newly elected people that we went to together, and that was helpful in digesting. They gave us a big thick book to go through, and so I'm excited to.
It's gonna be like drinking out of a fire hose,
Yeah, that's what it's.
Straight on.
Then
not by the side.
I'll do it.
But it's interesting and you'll learn a lot about what we do and what we should do, and so that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
As far as my report, I serve on a lot of committees. They don't directly benefit the city, but what it does is it puts me in front of the people who are decision makers in town and in the state, so that when we need something, we know who to call, and they respond because they know who we are. So, the people who serve on these committees, are very positive about our community, about Providence. And so it's been an interesting thing to meet with those. And I do chair a number of those committees as well. And speaking of meeting with people, I'm going to be out of town Monday, the 22nd, which is this Monday coming up, and Congressman Moore, our federal congressman, has a new legislative director here, and she's going to be in town on Monday from 4:30 to 5:30, and it's gonna have a reception, kind of a meet and greet sort of thing, and I would like a volunteer to go in my stead since I won't be here.
I'll go.
We'll go. Okay, so here's the information. Lisa Ross Kelly has been his representative locally, but she has been promoted to a regional position with him. And so this new person is going to be somebody that we'll need to talk with. And I probably will do a Zoom with her just so she and I can touch base. But Representative or Congressman Moore has been very, very supportive of the things that we do, and has a number of times said, what can I do for you? How can we get you some more money? So we're gonna be trying to get some money for our lift station to pay for that. So hopefully he can do that. Okay,
Can I interrupt you just a second?
yes,
Well, we also are looking to get some money or a possible way to give some consideration to a sewer treatment plant.
yes,
And we're wondering if he might be an avenue to go through. to
Absolutely.
get there. And so,
I've been planting the seeds with
Good.
him that we're gonna do that.
okay, good.
And Lisa has been very good. She makes sure that she like holds him down while she tells him.
Okay, good.
Cause he's always on the run, but
That's great.
he grew up with some of my kids. So he's the same age as some of my kids,
Oh, wow. Okay,
so that's a great connection to have.
that is a great connection.
But yes, we are gonna try to get some federal money to see if we can get our
grant for
sewer
that. Great,
paid for.
great.
Okay, so we'll end the report and we'll now talk about the minutes. We will consider for approval the minutes of December 5th, 2023. And so I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, what was it?
December 5th,
Yeah,
2023,
yeah.
last year.
Okay, let me get it up here.
I'll second.
Right, okay, we got it done. December 5th,
Okay,
2023.
so we have a motion and a second. Any feedback, any changes? Thanks to Ty for his great work. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Oh, you
I was
weren't here.
I was here, but I wasn't, so my.
Okay. So I think what we'll have you do is abstain because you weren't a council member at that time.
Okay.
So
We'll do that
you can do it next.
next.
Okay. Okay, we have a section now for public comments. People who have comments for us on items that are not on the agenda, because we do give you an opportunity for items that are on the agenda. So if anyone has comments, we welcome those comments.
And I will be brief.
We need your name.
Yes, name is Cole Parkinson. I'm an attorney on behalf of Dennis and Katie Gearkey. They own property at 198 East, 200 South here in Providence. And for those of you who don't know what's going on with their property, let me back up. My purpose here today is just gather information from you all to understand kind of the situation and what they're going through. And so for those of you that don't know what's going on, I'll enlighten you with the situation and then we can have a discussion on maybe why we're in the position that we're at. So by way of a little background, they bought a piece of property at that address about 10, 11 years ago. As of lately, they started to build a house on that property and they've had to live in a shop, and we're becoming aware of a pipe that has burst or hasn't burst. We ran a snake. I believe the city has done that and determined that there was a break.
You know,
And
Cole, can I stop you right there?
yes,
This body does not make decisions about those kinds of things. Do you know that?
you're right. I know, and I'm getting to the point of where you guys become relevant.
And
The reason why I'm here is because there's another culvert which was denied, and they were denied occupancy because of a basic pipe that they were using to pump water out of their house. And for the sake of all your information, that pipe was actually granted permission by this city, someone in this division, to do so. And in relying on that representation, they went ahead, constructed their house and did a bunch of different, it's called French drains.
So,
They're like
Mayor, let
$15,000.
me interrupt a little bit. Mayor, he has contacted the city and has been asked to, as an attorney, to communicate with the city's attorney directly, which is appropriate for attorney to work with attorney and not to use this body for a political
And
benefit. But you have been given a chance to work through the city attorney, and I believe he has contacted you. Is that correct?
that's correct, Mr. Snow. And the purpose of why I'm here this evening is just to make you all aware of why we're here and what's going on in case something happens in the future. And I'm not here to ruffle any feathers. We're literally here just to understand what's going on. I have been in contact with their attorney. And in fact, the attorney that I spoke to has no idea what's happened. I've contacted him 3 times asking, because this morning I was told that there was a vote on this issue. And I asked him, I says, where are we at? I don't know. He said, I have no idea. Give me a couple days to even get up to speed on what's happening.
okay, there is no vote because we don't even deal with that kind of stuff here at the council.
So Mayor, who would be the individual that I could speak with? I mean, obviously, hopefully the attorney will become informed once we get later on down the road, and maybe he'll speak with whomever they need to speak with. But at this point, we are unaware of who or why they are not receiving an occupancy permit based off of a simple drain pipe.
Okay, and we don't know anything about that.
You don't know who would have authorization to grant or deny a drain pipe or an occupancy permit.
Okay, what was the address again? Sorry.
Yeah, the address is 198 East, 200 South.
There is a process for an occupancy permit and
Okay.
there is a checklist.
Okay, who does that?
Our compliance officer.
So our public works director will supervise and go through a checklist of items. Occupancy permit is issued by the county building official. That's where occupancy permits are issued.
Okay.
We have a zoning clearance issue, but the building permit, the conclusion of the building permit process is the occupancy permit. Ours is a step in that process, but ultimately we've contracted with Cache County to issue occupancy permits.
And who do you have contact information for that individual?
I
Mr. Snow?
would contact the Cache County building department,
Building department. Okay,
depending on who's been assigned to the particular building permit.
okay, so the determination of occupancy is not determined by this body, but by a different body.
Well, at that point, ultimately, that is the issuing individual or body that issues the occupancy permit.
And does this body have any influence on whether an occupancy permit is granted or not granted?
It's not a political issue. No, the council wouldn't be. it's
Right,
based on
so
building
is your answer no?
I'm gonna refer that your questions, and you've been referred to our city attorney
I
to
have.
communicate on behalf of your client. I'm gonna refer that back to the city attorney.
Okay, that's fair. Well, I will leave it with that. I just wanted to make you informed in case anything happens in the future. That you kind of, I don't want to surprise anybody. I want to get you in front of the ball so you understand what's happening. You kind of get hopefully a resolution, nothing has happened. So for that, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close that portion of the meeting and we don't have any public hearings tonight, so we'll go to item number 2. Resolution 1-2024, update and revisions to the city council bylaws. Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on a resolution that updates the city council bylaws. So you all have had a copy of those. They were mostly gender neutral issues. There were a couple of things where it talked about the mayor taking care of things. Is this no, that's the, anyway, we just needed to update it. There's nothing substantive changed in it.
No, he's to these and theirs.
Right,
I had a couple of questions as I read.
Okay.
Just a minute ago, you announced that when you're in your absence next month, David will be leading the discussion. Is that true?
no. That was for the legislature.
For the
The youth council day.
Youth council.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm.
I won't be in town. I may not be in town on that day. So if I will go and David will go,
Okay,
just to support from a council perspective. But
yeah, it just said the council may elect a mayor pro tem.
we did that.
We did that, that's Carrie,
Janelle.
that's Janelle. Then we've got it wrong in,
So we've voted for Janelle. The proposed council assignments would be that change
Coming up.
kind. And when we make that adoption, that would be the potential
then we would
election.
make that change.
Correct, but that's just proposed as a
That's because I thought
possible
we
change.
voted you in.
That's correct.
All right, okay, now I understand. I got another question. On 3.1, it says, there's been a line through some stuff here and it said, the recorder acting under the general direction of the city manager is responsible for providing staff duties to the council. Tell me what that is.
Your minutes
Is that what
and
it
the
is?
preparation of the agenda.
So that's the minutes? Is that what you're meant by staff duties?
Yeah, keep track of your training, your minutes, and preparing the agenda. The recorder does that.
Okay. On 5.1, it says, city council hearing meetings begin at 6 PM Mountain Time. Do we ever include daylight savings time as a time change?
Mountain time changes with daylight savings, so mountain time is general for daylight savings.
We don't have to
It's always
specify,
mountain time.
we don't have to specify daylight savings time at 6 PM.
No, because it's mountain time, 6 PM.
So the change just makes it mountain time.
Mhm.
Okay. See, I learned something here tonight, very much. So. Very good. Well, that's what I do. And I'm just young, so I just got a few things to learn.
We've all got a lot to learn.
I have a daughter that teaches kindergarten. She said, I've never graduated from kindergarten. I've been here for 25 years. Okay. So I will entertain a motion then to approve revisions to the city council bylaws.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 2, resolution 01-2024, update and revisions to city council bylaws.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3 is resolution 2-2024. Justice Court interim judge appointment. The Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on a resolution setting up an interim judge for the Providence City Justice Court. We did have Matt Funk, and he was our judge, but he is running for county auditor. And in doing so, he is required to resign from any jobs that he does for any other government entity. And so we are now left without a judge. And this resolution is to give us the permission to have an interim judge while we decide 3 things. Are we going to eliminate our courts? Are we going to have somebody else take care of it for us? Or are we gonna hire a judge for here? So this really is just to appoint an interim judge for the Providence City Justice Court.
Because we're not allowed to terminate or to vote on.
Oh, yeah, it would have to be a public hearing and all those
For,
kind of things.
like, what's the waiting period to do that, or,
To do what? To terminate?
yeah, the court?
So the termination of the justice court would require a, state legislative action. So it would need to, it would require, having one of our legislators, pass a resolution at the state legislature to dissolve our justice court. So it's not an action that you can actually make.
The
We
state
have to
has
submit the action to a legislator, and at this point, we're probably too late in the session to have them take on that. So after the session's over, if we want to do that, we could go back and have them do an action. So that's what it would take is it's an actual legislative action by the state
Legislature.
legislature.
It also is not as simple as it seems. There are some things that we need to consider that are financial in nature. And so for right now, for tonight, rather than discuss all of that stuff, we just need permission to get somebody in the interim. And we have somebody who's willing to do that, but we need permission to do it.
So when can we put all of that stuff on the agenda so that we can talk about it?
We can put it on the next agenda. Or next council agenda, we could certainly do that. This one, because of the immediate need of having a
Holding court.
holding court in that this trumped the other discussions. It just needed to happen that we have an opportunity to fill so we can keep our current calendar and do those. One thing is, as the mayor mentioned, that as Smithfield dissolved theirs, and we found out, I've recently found out that they're going to a district court, dissolving it and going to a district court has your prosecutor waiting a lot longer and billing you a lot longer because they wait for their case to be heard at district court and they have to be there through the whole calendar until it gets to theirs. So there is some additional cost there. And we don't know if going to another court like Wellsville that does it all online, we don't know whether they're even willing. So we don't know that we have all the available options to present. So,
Yeah, well, and if we need to wait longer than a month or two, that's fine. I just, we talked about this a couple months ago. And so I'm like, okay, well, when are we gonna talk about how we're moving forward with our court?
And we didn't know the judge was gonna quit either.
Right. When we talked about it, we
and
were
a couple months
extending it.
ago, we would have, it would have required us to pay out his remaining contract. So that was a delay of, okay, we can do it, but we've got to wait to see when his contract would expire. He's obviously accelerated that rather than delayed it because he quit on his own
Yeah,
accord,
he's
so there is no
quitting his
contract
contract. Yeah.
to pay out. And that's helpful for us to make a change.
And this interim judge won't have a won't
Contract.
Won't have a contract. The resolution here is to appoint, to have us be able to appoint any sitting judge in the district or a retired judge or senior judge. Any of those, we could have that fill the space. Currently, we've talked to, the judge for Hiram's, and he's willing to cover our schedule at this point.
Okay.
So, but this allows us to be able to fill in any sitting judge or retired judge. That's what this resolution would allow us to do until we can get to the next step. And this will be a stopgap. The next judge will want us to get there, but I'm told from the court that it could take 9 months before the process to hire a new judge could take 9 months.
It's a long time to make people wait for prosecutions or whatever.
I'll make a motion that we accept item number 3. Resolution 02-2024, Justice Court interim judge appointment.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, I'd like to make one comment, that just quickly. Can we look, if we ever do bring in another judge on a contract, is there any way to put in some kind of a safeguard that this abrupt end doesn't happen again and leave us kind of hanging? Is there any way to build something in the contract, or does the state set those contracts?
The state sets a lot of that. The state sets the minimum salary. The state requires us to have, the cost of living be the same as everybody else in the city. The state requires, their agreement, and the state requires to go through their process. So we get to do it, but the state dictates everything that we do.
And pay for it.
Yeah, because it just kind of left us hanging.
And I think he decided when to do it, and the deadline for filing, was that Monday. And, so yes, it certainly was short time. If we have a resolution like this in place, when it does happen, then we could go to another judge or have
A
an
temporary
option.
solution.
But we didn't have that really in place. We didn't have it updated into place. So something like this beforehand would certainly have helped. So we didn't have
Can
a
this,
rush.
can this be a standing resolution in the event we go through this something similar again?
It can. We would want to make it more of a permanent, process to do a temporary judge. So we could do that. And when we get a contract, when we adopt that during that process, we could do something like that. Yes, that's possible.
Great. Okay, so we move on to item number 4, resolution 03-2024, amending Providence City's fee schedule. The Providence City Council review, discuss, and may take action on approving a resolution to amend the city's consolidated fee schedule. I think it's important to note on this fee schedule that we just didn't do a percentage across the board. We looked very carefully at the fees that we're charging and what it's actually costing us, as well as we're passing on fees that, like for the garbage and for the sewer, those are fees that we're passing along to the residents because that's what we're being charged. So, rather than go through this line by line, I'm going to ask if there are any questions about the fee schedule. And
Is the 5% annual rate and 3% to sewer and storm, is that just kind of like a locked in inflative type every year? It's just gonna go up 5 and 3%?
At this point, yes, obviously, we can review it every year. We can come back and do that. It doesn't lock it to a change. It just says that's the intent of keeping it through that. And without further action, then that's what the intent would be, is to lock that for those years. But obviously every year we usually bring this up, talk about what we want to change and what we don't. And certainly that could be changed at that discussion, so. But yes. You're okay.
So what do we anticipate? Do we anticipate a percentage increase from Logan on a yearly basis?
For sewer, that is correct. That has been what's happened over the last 5 years and is expected that that's what will continue to happen, at least for sewer. That has been what's happening. It's consistent and there is all indication that that will continue to happen.
They probably really don't give you much information about it. It says, here it is, enjoy.
So I am actually this year, I'm the chair of the rate setting committee, but Logan obviously has 60% of the vote, so really. They could
Think you got
consolidate that. And, but yes, I can assure you that they have already committed to a expansion of the sewer, plant. They're already in the process of getting ready to build, their expansion of that. They present their financials in budget form and not actual form. I've asked consistently for the actuals and I've continually received the budgets.
Now, I'm excited about what you're telling me, because at a 5% rate increase per year, by the time we reach 3034, we're looking at $73.30.
Yep.
When we hit 2040, I probably won't be here for this one, but anyway, it's $98.23. And we're talking about a sewer plant possibly on our own with a fee somewhere around in the $80 range, which makes it now more feasible because Big Brother is going to keep doing this to us. And it's going to take us a little while to pull our ducks together, get things ready. But by that time, of course, the cost will probably go up, but by that time, it'll be more palatable because we'll be paying that much to Logan City, some quantity of that to Logan City.
Well, there's nothing to guarantee that they'll stay at 5% either.
No. So that makes me excited. Yes, I like it.
I like it.
I like it.
I like it. Okay,
I have a few questions.
okay.
This failure to conclude burial service by 4, I can see why that needs to happen, but the per person, $100 per hour per person, how does that work?
So we have 2 guys that are there.
Oh, not by city
And the per-
employee. I was
yes.
like, so if there's people hanging out at the cemetery.
Uncle Ben, 100.
Sorry,
City employee.
per city employee.
It's a good thing you asked that
yes.
question.
Yeah, very good, thank
I'm
you,
like,
thank you, that
Clarified.
is per
well,
city employee.
if there's always 2 people, then maybe we should just say $200 an hour.
There's 2 to 3, so
Oh.
it's usually 2 or 3, and if that, replacing it back to what Mayor said, we're trying to base it on the actual cost of that. And so that's an overtime benefited rate, and we're saying if we have two there or 3 there, and they go beyond, and
Why would we need 3 there? After 4 o'clock?
Did somebody go?
Yeah, someone could go home, right?
we would try to send anybody home, so but that's the chance. And we're saying it's per hour, so if they're only there 15 minutes, we
Prorated.
yeah, we've done that, so, but we've said, you know, in our intent, the other intent could be is $100 at the minute they go over, but at this point, we've prorated it, but then we have 2 guys there, to bury, and it's always safe, whenever you're burying, you want.
At least 2.
Yeah, but sometimes we have a 3-man crew working, we do, so.
It seems fair to me to have it set to $200 an hour. And then, you know, have the policy be go home, someone draws straws, someone goes home at 4.
Yeah, that's fine, we'd be happy to do that too, so,
I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but
yeah, to
you know.
change it to $200 an hour.
Well, and the family that's there, they just know that it's gonna be 200. They're like, wait, how many guys are standing over there waiting for us to leave?
Or could you just clarify it and say per man hour? Or is that?
It would say per person, per hour per
But
person.
what if it's a woman that works? for
Well.
us?
Yeah, we just-
Yeah, I would love it to
So,
say $200 per hour,
Per human
Okay.
hour.
because there's gotta be two.
Is that that's a modification? Is that a motion and a modification?
Well, Brent made the motion if he feels good about
Can
that.
you make a motion?
I don't, no, he didn't.
No.
Oh, no one's
He
made,
didn't.
oh,
We haven't made a motion.
I could make a motion and then we can modify the motion. Is that the best way to go about it?
Well, we're not gonna modify the motion, we're gonna modify the,
Okay, so then
But
my,
see
my
if there
other
are any other-
question,
if there are any other changes that people wanna make, let's do it all in one motion.
okay. My other question, it's saying recycling optional, which I was in favor of making recycling optional so that people don't spoil the load. But at what point does that become effective? When we start hauling our own?
And it would become effective, the effective date of this. If you, well, in your motion, you should tell us when this becomes effective and probably, March first would be appropriate or April first would be appropriate effective date so that we have time in order to publish and modify. So we would ask that you probably adopt rates as effective, whatever that.
So that's not in
March 1st.
conflict with our contract with Logan?
That's what I'm wondering.
So-
And that, if that portion has to become effective when we begin hauling.
If
our
they
own.
don't put their can out,
So
should we charge them?
April first would be approximately when we're expecting that conversion to happen if our trucks come on time.
Oh,
We
okay,
hope.
So they'd have to have their recycling can collected. Otherwise, they're gonna get billed for it,
Mhm.
regardless whether they put it out or not. Or
Isn't
the
it-
actual can cannot be on the permit. That's when we,
isn't it optional whether you have a can or not?
Yeah,
It's not it's whether you have a can or not, that's the option. A can is not required,
But prior to this, everyone's required to have a can and pay. the
not
fee.
green waste, blue
No, no,
waste.
no.
Right,
this is
we're talking
blue.
about recycling.
optional recycling.
It's recycling that I'm talking about.
Oh, you're
Those
talking
to
about
be-
recycle, I thought you said.
That's the one that says optional, that's newly optional.
Well, green waste is optional
But the
too.
one that's red in optional,
That's
so that's
the
the one I
proposed
have.
change.
The change is the one I have a
Oh, okay.
question about.
so
So
if you
can
make
we-
it effective, when we start our new, when we start garbage service, that's what we're intending to do. Because as long as Logan is doing it, they've required it, but when we move over to ours, we're looking for that to be optional at that point. That's when we're intending to do that.
So do we need to make this fee schedule effective then so that this optional isn't an issue?
Sure, that sounds great.
Or you can make it effective March first, with
Except
the
for that.
exception of that until we start our garbage service.
That's fine, yep. Okay, it's also, good.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's,
so I'm sorry, I have one more question.
okay, great.
Just one more. The fiber utility, non-subscriber, we've planned on this, we've talked about it. We've known it's coming, so will this fee become effective for those? For who and at what time?
This is just adding it to the consolidated rate schedule so that it's listed. It's still, the council still is yet to adopt and notify the effective date of when you want it to take effect. This is just adding it to the adopted rate schedule, which you've already adopted the rate, you just haven't indicated when it's effective. So
And that won't become effective with this, it will just be
Not
on the schedule,
automatically, no.
right? Okay,
So,
easy then.
Good
so then
question.
you have to include that in the language of your motion as well.
Does it need to be included in the
Because if
language of the
you're
motion?
specifically excluding the recycling until we begin hauling our own garbage, you have to specifically exclude the fiber as well.
Well, the other fees that are on here, they don't pay them unless we charge them,
But we can't charge them unless they're effective.
unless they're on the, right, but we don't have to exclude them now because we haven't decided to charge that. It's just on there. So when we decide to charge it, we have the instruction.
clarification wise, Janelle, you're welcome to include that in the motion, because that would be, as clear as the motion can be, the better we are, so that we follow what the council wants. That's fine. But You're right. I mean, it wasn't, it was intended just to add, as we're looking at monthly utility items, that's a utility item. We have the item on the bill now. We've just never added it in the consolidated schedule. And we've never added it to the bill yet, because the effective date, we've been waiting for the completion of construction. But if you want it specific, clearly including it in the motion and clarifying is always helpful.
Okay, I've got two other questions that aren't changes. I know we've gone through this every year for the last 4 years, but you know, new things pop up every time. The special event fee, like what's considered a special event? And it's on top of the reservation of the park? Like what makes it special?
They're not using the park usually, they're using our streets.
Or they could be using not a pavilion, because a lot of times the park space is pavilion rentals. So let's say, for instance, somebody wants to reserve and do a fireworks display, not necessarily the city celebration, but maybe they want to come in and do some type of other demonstration, or they come and maybe they want to have a
rally
a
or.
marathon, we had
Oh,
a
okay.
marathon that came, or a run that came through and we had to use
Okay,
our,
so that's an example
that
of a
would be an
special.
example of a special
Okay,
event.
so it's not in addition to a pavilion fee necessarily, like, I'm like, is a wedding a special event or is a birthday party a special event? You know, but if they're using the pavilion, then
Then it's a pavilion
it's
rental
a
that way.
pavilion rental. But if they need the streets or something, then, okay. And then I'm wondering, maybe you don't know this number, but last year we implemented the excess water fees, and I'm wondering if, you know, there were people that went into the top tiers of excess water, or how that went down.
So you're wondering about the usage.
Yeah, the usage, because that was new last year, right?
So
Did we
I
have
haven't-
people that went up that, over that?
We had, our usage last year versus the
The
year
mayor.
prior. Our usage last year versus the year prior was within 1% or 2%. It was fairly close.
Super close.
It was super close. So all of our growth that we've had, we saw almost no increase in usage. So
So people were more careful.
so
Yeah.
we would make the assumption of that we conserved enough that our new growth didn't affect the usage that we had in culinary water.
I think this would be useful to include like in the June newsletter when people are starting to track their water, so they know how close they are to going to the next tier. I just think information is power. And I think that would be helpful to people instead of just opening their $500 water bill.
Does our billing allow for that?
Yeah, I don't know if you could put it on the bill or if it'd have to go in the newsletter, but you know, about the time they're starting to track, I think it would be useful.
We can put a line or two on the utility bill, on the thing that you either get in the mail or. I don't know when you get an email, if
Yeah, my software will have a whole lot of stuff that people.
I probably can't hear you.
Yeah, at that point, the newsletter is an option. We'll look at other possible.
Yeah, just a suggestion
So,
as,
No,
as it comes closer, since it's fairly new, like all of a sudden looking at this, I'm curious what my family was using and how close we were to hitting the next tier.
did you want me to bring it up so that everybody can see what your
Maybe,
usage was?
compare me to Kathleen.
Come in later and I'll do that for you.
I have 2.3 acres.
When they broke the
Can I put a
water.
meter on my daughter's shower?
Yes, I think next meter does things
They will
like
do
that.
that.
Yes, they do.
That's right, that is next meter does do
That's
that.
them, that's not us, but you can certainly do that.
Okay, that's all of my
I
questions.
got one question before you move away from that. So what's the rationale behind the difference in price charges for Zollenge Park versus Vaughn's Park? Is the sensitive nature of Vaughn's Park, the grass of that, what's the difference in charge?
Some of it's demand. Honestly, we have a lot more demand for Vaughn's Bear Park, than we do for Zollenge Park, that's one. some of it is the size of the pavilion. The pavilion at Vaughnsburg Park has a kitchen. Yeah,
It does.
sort of, and the others do not have that kind of, so there is some difference.
Lawn Bear Park is more exclusive. When you rent the pavilion at Zollinger Park, if they've got baseball games, soccer, all of that goes on, all you get is the pavilion at Zollinger Park, where Lawn Bear Park, you get the park. You don't get the trail or the, mini golf, the disc golf, but you get the park. Zollinger, you just get the space under the pavilion.
Plus it's shaded and cooler in the summer.
That's, yeah. One other question, at one time, it was open on Sunday, first come, first served. Is that not the case anymore? Everything has to be scheduled.
If it's not scheduled, it's first come, first served. So if you have not reserved it.
If you
then-
wanna chance it.
If you want to chance it, then it is first come, first
So
served.
that's still first come,
So
first
it's still
served.
first come, first
If
served.
it's not reserved.
If you haven't, if it's not reserved. If
How do
it's reserved,
people
then that's
know?
who.
So if I decide on a whim that I wanna go use Zollinger Park or Vaughn's Park, how do I know that somebody's not gonna come half an hour after I get there and they've reserved it? Do we post it over?
There is a
Well,
posting.
we,
on the
on our,
Oh, it is on the gate?
on
Okay,
our website,
okay,
when you go in to reserve a park, the park doesn't tell you who has it reserved,
right.
but it tells you what dates are available or what dates are not. And so if you wanted to go in on a certain date, you can look it up. If it says available, you know, you're pretty good to take your chances. If it says not available, then somebody's already got it.
Is it posted on the gate?
Is it still in the
as well?
gate?
On Vaughnsburg Park, I think we,
Hot pink flyer that the morning of a reservation,
Yeah.
the park department puts on the gate
Okay,
Okay,
immediately.
that's good to know.
okay.
Okay.
Done.
All right,
I'll make a motion.
okay,
Okay, so my motion is that we approve item number 4, resolution 03-2024, amending Providence City fee schedule. My motion is that we adopt it as presented with the exception for March 1st,
going to
with,
effect.
to go into effect March 1st, with the exception of the recycling being optional to go into effect when we take over garbage hauling, and the fiber utility non-subscriber fee to go into effect after it is decided to be implemented by the council.
Okay, so we
Do you
have,
want the changes on the cemetery there?
Oh, and that the cemetery burial fee will be a flat $200 per hour prorated after 4 o'clock.
okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Jeff. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we don't have any agreements, contracts, or bids, so we have item number 5 under other business. Providence City Council goals and assignments. The Providence City Council will review, discuss, and may take action on approving their goals and assignments for 2024. So, there were some reassignments done. Everyone has had a copy of that. Discussion, questions,
I was
From the
happy to
council?
see, I was happy to see some things moved around, especially, I feel like Janelle has carried such a heavy weight. I'm glad to see some of her assignments dispersed, even though no one can do it better than Janelle.
to be a competition to see how
Many
you
hands
do.
make light work.
just one clarification. Jeff, you'd emailed that you wanted to keep the mosquito, but then in your report, you're talking about leaving it. So I just wanted to clarify which
Yeah.
way you want to go there.
Yeah, we're just gonna pass that one on. And,
He's learned what he needed to
I
learn.
know everything about mosquitoes now. I think someone else will have an opportunity.
And how many mosquitoes we have in the county?
Yeah, to the one.
I still got bit. What was going on?
There's still mosquitoes,
You're in
is
a
what he
hot spot.
reported.
Yeah, you got a lot of water.
We're by the
there,
creek.
so,
There you
We're in
go.
trouble.
True.
Be sure to empty all your standing water containers.
Don't create any dams there by your house.
Yeah.
Do we have to do a formal action to move Mayor Pro Tem to Carrie?
That would probably be.
Do you wanna keep it,
Election.
Janelle?
I am happy to.
She's
share.
experienced now.
You're planning to be here for the next 2 years, right, Kathleen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was my.
And to
that
every
was my-
meeting?
That was my stipulation.
To every
when I
meeting,
got
because we
that
do have
last-
Zoom, and if
last
for
year.
some reason I can't be here, you know, we can do Zoom. It's just hard to run a meeting over Zoom, but it's possible.
Okay, I'm willing, but also willing to not.
Okay, the question is,
So do we have to have a formal action to do that? Or is it
I think you-
adopted in this?
I think it would need to be itemized out individually, in your motion that is the vote of the
there's
council.
a change to our list.
Yeah, that's a specific item, needs to be specifically
I just
separated.
didn't know where it's required by state code to have one, if it had to be its own agenda item, or it's fine.
I don't think it has to be its own agenda item because if, let's say both you and the mayor were gone, whatever, and neither one of you could be here, the council can hold a special election at that night to appoint a mayor pro tem for that meeting. So I don't think it has to be necessarily a specific agenda item. It's shown and we can call it out so that people recognize that, and you all get to vote on whether you agree with the proposal or not. So I think you would be just fine.
In this, council bylaws, it just says that in the absence of the mayor or because of his or her inability or refusal to act, the council may elect a member of the council to preside over the meetings as mayor pro tem and chair. Shall have all powers and duties of the mayor during his or her absence or disability. And then it was, I learned this, the mayor pro tem shall retain his or her voting privilege.
Because I don't have a voting privilege,
Yeah, but they do.
But they
as
do,
Mayor pro
right.
tem.
right? So well, I'll entertain a motion to approve our list of council assignments.
I'll make a motion that we approve the council assignments for 2024-2026 with the adjustment of Carrie Kirk being the mayor pro tem.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hi,
Any opposed?
Just one thing on your spreadsheet, I noticed there's no T in my last name.
See? That was, see on me, that one's me. If you had another one, that was me.
Now we're
I'm
correct.
sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. We
We
had the
must
same
get the names
mistake in his
correct.
email, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Otherwise, it's that other guy.
I've seen it spelled 1,000 ways, so people are creative.
For sure.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, we're moving right along.
sweetheart.
So the next one is Providence City, item number 6. Providence City meetings, events and holiday schedule. Providence City Council review, discuss and may move forward with approving the city's 2024 meetings, events and holiday schedules. So, the schedule includes 2 new things. One is the Juneteenth on June 19th as a paid day off. And the other thing is we're proposing to close down the week of Christmas. not the week between Christmas and New Year's, but the week of Christmas. We find that one or two of those days is always involved with the Christmas holiday. And then the other 3 days, and we're closed, and they're paid days off. But the other 3 days, we have very little walk-in traffic. And there are some things, IT things and housekeeping things that are best done if we don't have an office full of people. So these will not be paid days off for the staff, but they will be days that the staff can take off, where the office itself will not be open. We will still be available to our citizens. If they need something from us, we'll still answer phones. But the building itself, with the receptionist out front, will not be open. So the rest of it is public meetings on the calendar, city closures, and events and trainings that are going on. So the calendar has all those colors on it. So that it'll be posted, people will know what we're doing, and know when we'll be here. And we feel like this will be really effective for our citizens to be able to know what to expect.
I mentioned in my council report, but if we could add the Easter egg hunt to the city events,
March 30th.
March 30th.
We'll add that if you adopt that list.
Hopefully, there's not a foot of
There's
snow.
no snow.
We're a
Last year
little
we had to
gun
cancel.
shy to schedule an Easter egg hunt this year,
But
but it's worked for the last 30 years before last year.
March 30th.
Well, not, March 30th is the date for, yeah, the Saturday
Okay.
before Easter.
Okay, well, we'll do some extra pleading.
And I like the idea of having it posted as a graphic. I think that's helpful.
And then just for clarification, the list is at the bottom and people can look and see.
Yeah.
So,
And the backside has got a bunch of stuff on it too. So.
yeah. So,
I'll make a motion that we
Okay.
adopt the 2024 city calendar.
okay, we have a motion? Second.
I second.
Okay. Our new council member did a second. That's great. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have 3 study items. Let me just tell you that these are study items. The council all received a copy that you could go through, read through, have any questions about. And once we decide they're ready, they will need to go to a public comment period, and then they can come for adoption. But right now, we want to make sure that there are no questions, issues, changes, whatever to these. So let's go through them one at a time. It doesn't require any action on our part. We don't need to take a vote.
7, 8, and 9 all have a public hearing, or just 7?
They will have a public
All 3 of
hearing.
them
Mhm.
will?
Yes,
Okay.
because we're changing code. So
Just start with 7.
let's start with number 7, which is the garbage, waste and recycle amendments. So any questions, comments that you have about those that you thought about as you went through them?
A few consistency issues.
Okay, those are good to catch.
Well, we've changed the definition from community waste to green waste, but farther down in the definitions, but farther down. What line it is? Didn't make good enough notes to tell you. Oh, there it is. Line 168, it says community waste, so that should say green waste, right?
Did you say 168?
Yeah, 168 should say green waste instead of community waste, and then within that section, there's several references that need to be adjusted to say green waste, which I think it's a lot
A
clearer.
lot
that
more
that's
clear. Yes,
what it is.
because it's like, what's community waste?
Right.
The other thing is, what is market waste?
Would that be like?
That would be
a-
my question.
A food preparation place?
Don't know.
So you want us to add a definition of market waste in there?
What is market waste? Do you know? Scarlett?
Scroll down one, Ryan, does,
It's for the feedlots.
no, you went too far, sorry.
It's like
Right
one
there.
fifty something.
Oh, I have to apologize. I must not have included, and I can't remember what it is. I'll find out for you and make sure you have it
Okay.
in advance.
On 160.
Well, if I need a definition, maybe the public does too.
So, but yeah, I guess I did not include the changes to 1-3 when I sent some of this to Ty, so I apologize for that.
1-3.
That's the
So
definition.
definition.
Oh, okay.
There's a few of them here, but
Um,
not a definition for market waste.
Okay.
So then, my other consistency issue is that we've changed. Like, we have a definition of refuse. But then, why are we calling it waste and recycle? Are we gonna call it waste or are we gonna call it refuse?
Garbage and refuse are interchanged, words. So when you talk about refuge, you're talking about garbage. Waste is green waste. And recycle is, so it's your black can is your garbage or refuge. Waste is your green waste
Maybe we should specify that.
and recycle is your blue can. So that's, but we could define refuge as.
Or define waste.
Could we
As
just
green
use
waste.
one or the other and not,
Not
like maybe just
interchange
use waste and not refuse? I mean, garbage,
Not green waste. He said waste is green waste.
No,
right, waste
Waste
is
is
green
green
waste, but
waste.
that's,
and garbage is
so
refuse.
just use garbage and not
Refuse is
refuse.
kind of an old word.
So they've struck refuse in some places, but kept it in others, and if waste is meant to
Be
imply
green
green
waste.
waste, let's just say green waste. It's clear.
Green waste.
Make it clear.
When I first read that, I almost thought it was an error. But I think just getting rid of refuse and just using garbage strictly, then we get rid of the definition and use a term everyone knows, since they're interchangeable anyway. Until another decade goes by and they change the word to something else.
It's probably more than a decade old.
There's a typo on line 42. It says waster. I think it's supposed to say waste.
And on line 135, I believe.
What was your note? What line was that?
Line 42,
42 has,
the typo, it says waster.
And on line 135, it says unless the customer pays the bill and then the word in after it, it just wasn't crossed out.
and what number was that?
135. It starts water service to the customer.
So, but that, I did have that question. Should it be in full or just pays the bill? Because farther down, it stipulates that you have to have everything paid in full to have your water connection
Right.
restored.
Right.
And there's details on the notice. If your water gets turned off for failure to pay your garbage bill, that we're stricken all the things that should be included, but I really think that they should, when they get notice that it's gonna be terminated, they should know that they're gonna have to pay a $500 fee to get their water turned back on. Cause it's not just paying their bill in full, then they pay the water connection fee, which is $500.
We didn't take them while they're down.
No,
Well, not the water
No.
connection, the water on and off fee.
It's an on and off fee, not a connection.
the water
The
connection.
water
fee is
connection is
a
actually the
pinhole.
meter.
Okay,
Yeah,
cause I pulled up the fee schedule and
So there's an on-off, fee.
it
And
might
that's
say
the
shut
fee.
off and turn on or something.
$30.
oh, it's $30.
Right.
The city charges $500 for somebody to come out and turn.
For a new connection,
No, new,
No,
new
a
one.
new
If
connection.
you,
$30.
if you have a new home and you need a new and you need a water meter with it.
So it's $30.
Pretty expensive.
No, 500. Well, that's more.
So it's like a
palatable.
main service charge, not
I
like.
was
like 500. I'm like, I feel like
A month of groceries.
pretty specific if that's what we're gonna charge.
No,
They
it's-
should be
it's
crystal
the-
clear.
It's the $30 fee that we charge for the on-off, but then they have to bring their bill current.
So if they have to pay in full, line 135 should say in full,
All right,
or take the in out.
Well, I would say that they would have to pay to bring it current, so they have to pay the bill. They
In
would
full.
bring it current. Well, the question is in full, is that the current balance that's due within 30 days? Or is that all past due balance?
pays the delinquent portion of the bill, I
Yeah.
can put that.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Just needs
Yeah,
to
we
be
need to know what
verified.
portion of the bill has to be taken care of. It needs to be really identified
I
clearly.
think we should say past due amount.
Okay.
That's the way
So we
do it.
don't kick them while they're down, we help them out.
So, well, just,
We try some. And then they take advantage.
I know I shouldn't speak in a public meeting.
We do try and work with them though.
I'm sure you do.
yes, I'm sure you do, for sure.
Okay,
When you, okay, I got one more philosophical question. Do we shut meters off in the wintertime for non-payment of bill?
No.
We would like to avoid the answer to that question in a public hearing, public meeting.
Good call.
We don't really want to answer that in the
I'll
winter.
call you.
Okay.
I'll
give me a
call
call
It's
later.
not Scarlet Shake her head, you have to be here to know the answer.
We do have the option for small claims if for some reason.
Well, my
we can't
question
be
is,
together.
the penalty to shut off their water. They don't pay their garbage bill during the wintertime. Are you gonna shut off their water?
Yes,
You will do that.
that would be the penalty that's outlined for us to be able to do.
And if it freezes,
Yeah, that's
That's the portion you
part of
wanna
the
talk
problem,
about.
right? It's a part of the problem.
yeah,
We talk about it more.
we can talk about the edit offline.
I have another thing that needs adjusted. On 195, it says it's specifically approved by the county service area. And we're not doing the county anymore, so we should strike that.
Needed to be, yeah, thank you.
Where is that?
On line 195.
Yeah.
I think in line 203, chapter should be included, but it's stricken.
Where's that at?
Line 203.
Well,
I guess
can't just-
related to the enforcement of the provisions in this, what? So it's just an incomplete sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think chapter is supposed to be sprayed. I'll put it back in there.
Those are all the things that I had on the list.
I still had one comment. Ryan and I.
Yeah,
talked
no,
about that.
that's good, bring it up.
So on line 181. It says dumping, well, 180 and 181, dumping refuge prohibited. Shall be unlawful for any person to place, deposit, or dump garbage, ashes, market waste, proper boxes, cartons, trade waste, manure, or night soil, and so forth. I didn't know what night soil was, but I got educated on night soil. And so, I understand that one, but there are still, me included, use manure on my garden. And, there are people still put manure out on pastures, that still exists in Providence City. And so I spent a while talking with Ryan about this and wondering if, there'd be a possibility of removing that word manure.
I think there's a difference between dumping something as a waste product and utilizing it as a fertilizer.
because this
Can we
does say
spell that
being
out
So maybe we
there?
need to say, maybe we need to say something like that because we don't want somebody to just
Dump manure.
dump manure because they had more than they needed and there's a vacant lot and they just go dump it there.
Has that happened?
We have all kinds of stuff dumped on vacant lots, so.
Dumped as garbage, maybe?
Yeah, I know there's garbage and green, grass clippings and all that sort of stuff put on. But I guess my point is, can we clarify that then?
So that's on,
Manure use for
181?
fertilizer is okay, but just if you dumping manure for dumping manure's sake, getting rid of it, then yeah, that's prohibited.
yeah, I'll work on
Yeah.
supporting for that.
Yeah,
Garbage manure.
Yeah, I mean, just like throwing chicken crap onto the empty lot next to you is dumping manure, but putting on your garden is different.
found people that put green waste on their garden and compost and make their compost piles and put that on their gardens. And, I think that we want to make sure
Clarify.
it's clarified.
Okay. On that section, I did have a question too. It says, or any other refuse. I mean, I don't know why some things get specified and other things don't, but I've also seen a lot of people throwing tires in the vacant lots, especially up across Little Baldy.
Cause you have to pay to recycle tires.
So I don't know, if we should
You'd like us
include
to add
tires.
tires in that? Maybe we can add tires in that.
Oh, I almost did, but I took my thing up.
Thank
They're
you.
already in your car, you might as well, right?
Or did
When you get them
Turn back
changed.
up.
go roll them down the hill at the,
You want one more typo?
no, at
Yes,
the quarry?
70.
Is that what
They
they
go
go?
270.
Okay,
What's the words?
so can we move on to the next one?
270, what's the typo word?
Maybe it could be AN.
And order.
Oh, yeah, sometimes spell check changes things for me when it shouldn't, because it looks at,
Well, when it was A written,
yeah.
it would have been correct, but when it becomes A order, it's
Yeah.
an, yeah.
And sometimes spell check doesn't recognize the stripe.
But it's a real word.
Yeah.
So when I read through 4-3-9 emergency provisions, like if the city had to go in and clean something up, it doesn't say here that that would be billed to the offending party. I think it should be billed to whoever had to like go get. We have to step in and take care of your garbage in your area for health code reasons. You should get the bill for the work. Yes?
That has occurred once in the city
At least
that I
one.
know of. And there had to be an attorney order at that time, or judge order, didn't it?
To collect the money back.
No, to clean up the
Yeah.
person's
To
yard.
have that, I think we have it in the nuisance.
That's, what- this
It's
is
in the
part of the
code somewhere.
nuisance. I probably just need to use, to refer it to the penalty that's in whatever part of the chapter.
Just
that it
say
is.
C.
Yeah,
This
Section or
okay, so
whatever
that's
that means.
275, right?
Mhm.
So is there anything in that emergency cleanup that would require the city to go through the legal process to deal with a private property in cleanup? Because I know it occurred once, and I know it took a long period of time to get through it.
I don't know that we would have considered that an emergency. I mean, it was definitely a health hazard and it was unsightly, but there wasn't, I don't know if there was imminent danger specifically to a person, but we probably do need to check with the health department at least, if we do something like that.
Who would declare it an emergency?
Wouldn't it be the health department? Cause they're the ones that would give that designation.
Well, the one that we did before, that was the court.
That was a
We had
court.
to actually,
That was a court, but I'm just wondering who would declare it an emergency? Is it because of a disaster that happened? I mean, that's really broad term because there'd be a lot of junk around at that time. I'm just wondering, in this emergency provision, how is it identified an emergency? And what would give us then the right to go on private property and take care of something? Does that need further review?
That's covered in here, isn't it? It says that, we are authorized to go on private property if there is a problem. I don't remember exactly where that was. But it says that we
It
have the right
says
to do that.
reciting the existence of an emergency and the conditions violating this chapter. But I understand what that's saying, but I do know how difficult it is to deal with private property.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out and give an example of what maybe this would be. Let's say that COVID was as bad as it was threatened that it could be, and it swept through, or a plague swept through a house, and there was an emergency need to remove, those infected, whatever was infected, so that it would preserve the safety of the neighborhood. I mean, this is extreme. I mean, emergency is an extreme item. We're talking in the far extremities of the possibility of things when we're talking an emergency. So when we just talk a nuisance, that is something that has a long process in this. But this is something that would constitute emergency. And I mean, even at that point, it's gotta be in such extremity that it would be something that we would note without notice or hearing. That's gotta be something pretty extreme. And I mean, it's gotta be life safety to the neighbor, that the neighbor's gonna die if we don't do something. I mean, it just, I don't know exactly all of what that might be, but this is discussing a pretty emergent, or a pretty extreme item that
And who would we send in to clean it up?
probably FEMA, or I don't know. I don't know what it would
So
be. I don't know.
I'm seeing an issue in an ordinance that we've got, or built into this ordinance, that I would hate someone to come along later and misconstrue it as an emergency without some type of declaration, some type of method of taking care of the project. An emergency is an emergency. That steps over the bounds of a nuisance, steps over the bounds of desires, or we don't like the way it looks, or you've got junk on your yard. I mean, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to declare it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, is that our emergency manager, Ryan?
I'm gonna vote the mayor. Declares an emergency in this kind of case. I don't wanna have my name on that.
Ryan's emergency
Our
manager.
mayor pro tem will do it.
I'm just wondering if we're dealing with something here that either needs to, I don't know, I am concerned about it.
I will check with our city attorney and see what they say.
Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
Do they think we should set as the person that declares the emergency
Okay,
or the body?
Now, I think
Council member
Rob-
over emergency.
I think Rob could declare emergency on water.
You didn't hear that, did you?
What's that?
It's gonna be the council member over the emergency preparedness.
Yeah, well, he's already got a problem with his heart, so let's not go too far with that.
Okay, any others? Okay, let's close that one down and move to number 8.
Just curious, as clarification, you said this one. If you leave it as is, we're assuming you want to come back as a study item with the changes you've noted.
Right.
Rather than making the changes you've noted and going to public hearing. I just wanna make that clarification of which way you're wanting us to
Do you
go.
wanna-
I think
do
we
you wanna
want
take-
it in a public hearing.
I think so too.
We can still make changes.
You can still make changes at that point, yes.
Because we don't know
There'll
what
be
kind of
more
feedback.
changes in
Yeah.
there.
We don't want to study it more. We want the community to study it.
Yeah, so you'd like to move it with the changes, you'd like to move it to a public hearing.
Correct.
I would like some input on that emergency though, before we moved it on. I'm okay to move it to public hearing, but I still like to see some clarification on that.
Oh, yeah, we'll get the input so that the public sees the best version we can give them at that point. It won't be necessarily what you adopt because you'll hear their stuff, but we'll make these changes and get the input on that.
But we don't need to discuss it anymore. I mean,
No.
let's
That's up to
just
you.
see what that
I'm okay with that.
entails.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to item number 8. Providence City Code 7-12 fiber optic. And 11-4-8 fiber system code introduction. So will the fiber code and the fiber system code. Any feedback on that?
I had one question. Sorry, I'm taking a whole conversation, but coming down to line 57, 56, it's C. It talks about suspending or disconnecting any
One
customer.
fifty-seven?
Excuse me, 157, 156, 157. See, I don't have the first page, I just printed it off. Anyway, it talks about suspending or disconnecting any customer using the fiber system for purpose of delivering any virus, spam, spyware, denial of service attacks, or any other illegal or malicious purpose. Again, comes to my mind the determination that they have done that and what's the process. Now, I understand it's built in there and maybe this process takes place prior to that. And this just covers us that after it's been determined, then we can discontinue the service. Is that what we're trying to say? After it's been determined somewhere else, somewhere along the line, it's not just because your neighbor didn't like yours, felt like you were doing something. It's a process where it's been determined there's something amiss with that connection or so forth.
Yeah, it'd
We're
have to
just
be,
concerned that they're innocent till proven guilty.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, I think this would, you'd have to, there would be some sort of
A process.
cybersecurity that identified that location.
right, there would have to be some identification and determination of that before, because we don't track. I mean, we don't actively track those, so it has to have been,
Some event
Identified.
that was triggered by what they were doing?
yes, and would have had to have a investigation of some type done. I would,
so this just gives us the opportunity, once that's been given to the city.
Right.
To terminate that.
once the
service.
FBI tells us that they're malicious and virus, then we can turn them off.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I understood.
I have a question about metropolitan versus municipal. Because I read it in a couple of spots. In one spot, it seemed like the point in the definition of the point of delivery.
Which,
Point
sorry,
of delivery on line 33. It says the physical point at which the metropolitan network ends and the public agencies, the city's local network begins. To me, that's like the main trunk line is the point of delivery, right? That's line 33 in the definitions. Is that how you understand metropolitan to read? That's where the main line comes from, like into the valley.
Yes.
So farther down. Like line 38, it, on page 2, on page 104, chapter 7, it says. Controlling the city's metropolitan area network.
I think
So,
metropolitan could be
so
used
should it
as
say as municipal there?
Yeah,
Cause I just think that it,
I think that works. municipal.
We're not,
It should
we're
be-
not metropolitan yet.
right, well, it just needs to be clear what we're
Right,
referring to when we say metropolitan.
Yeah, I think that
And
should
which
be
one's municipal?
municipal. Yeah. And up here, on 26. That would be also municipal.
So maybe you can do a search and replace and make sure that we use municipal rather than
Metropolitan, make sure that they,
metropolitan.
apply correctly.
Okay.
Is that what we're calling it? The municipal area network? I
That
mean,
is a definition of what it is. I don't know that that's
Yeah. I don't see.
that's not the
it's not the
branded
name.
name, but that's the defining what it is.
Anything else?
Are we talking about the second part of that now? There's another part to that. Have we moved off of this
Let's,
one?
if this one's okay, we'll move on to the next one.
1148.
Yeah. So, and this is just, as it talked about in here, contractors and people extending the fiber optics and cutting into the street and stuff like that. Where do we have, or will we have provisions for damaging and repairs and stuff like that for contractors getting into the street who are actually, that make a mistake and do damage to our fiber optics? Is that another chapter? Is that an upcoming?
That's under blue stakes rules that we would bill them under our blue stake, rule, under the blue stake rules. If they had marked it, if they had an active blue stakes, and we didn't mark it, then that's us paying the damage. If it's been marked and they damage it, then they pay it. And that's kind of the
What if
blue
they don't
stick
ask
laws.
to?
Is that how we do the water and others?
We would lean heavily on the blue sticks laws for damages.
And if they didn't even ask for it to be marked, that's a slam
That's
dunk.
on them. Yeah.
Okay.
So extension, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
extensions into new streets connecting to fiber optics. Will that all be done by our present contractor so that we have the same quality of fiber optics? Are they gonna be able to get their own fiber optic contractor to come in and put the extensions in a new street?
So our contract would include putting the fibers in, but the
The conduit.
contractor would put in the conduit, and we're expecting that we'd have conduit that could be available at the city office, I would think. That's kind of what our thought is.
We've been talking about that kind of stuff very recently, actually.
Okay, and I'm gonna throw out one more, cause Ryan and I talked about inspections. We talked about sewer connection inspections and stuff. Are we gonna charge for fiber conduit inspections? Is that just part of their doing? Is that something we're gonna have somebody out there looking at, this fiber conduit inspection? How's that going to work? Do we know? Maybe we're not to that point yet. I don't know.
I don't know that we're to that point. We're at the point we're creating a department. We haven't got to that point, that step. We probably should have been in that step, though. I don't know that we're
I
exactly
think
there
we should
yet.
have the conduit inspected. The one thing
Just
about,
curious.
because the installer tests the fiber connection. I mean, if the fiber itself has an issue, they'll discover that upon installation. But if there's compromise in the conduit, you'd only know that by installation,
Till the time they tried to pull the fiber or something, yeah.
right?
Or replace it.
We'll find out if there's a problem with the fiber when we blow in the fiber, or is there a problem with the conduit when we blow in the fiber? And
But then it's asphalted and the contractor's gone and, yeah. Okay,
that happens with our own contract that we've currently done. That's how it's worked currently.
Okay.
Okay.
even wrote a mill in the road.
One thing with this section, this is actually going into our land use code. So this part is gonna go to planning commission as a study item next week. And they will have to hold a public hearing on it. They will hold the public hearing on 11/4/8 and make a recommendation to you.
Okay.
But your feedback right now on it is great, because then I can get it fixed up before I send it to them. So, but it's the part that's putting it into the subdivision code so that we can require developers to put all this stuff in the ground for us, so.
That's what
So
you have
then
to
we don't
deal
have to do it.
with an old inspector.
Those are good points, Brent.
Good point.
Non-technical guy. Okay, any further discussion about this item? Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Wanting to move to,
So is this one moved to a public hearing? The first part would go to a public hearing. The second part will go to planning commission and they will move it
They'll hold a public, they'll have a study item and then they'll schedule a public
Okay.
hearing for that second part, not the first.
Okay. So the fiber code 7-12, that one's ready. The other one goes to the planning commission. Okay, this next one, mobile food vendors. It's an introduction to having a code on the books for mobile food vendors. So as you went through this, what did you think?
Well, I had a question.
No kidding.
No kidding. Who would have a question?
Please tell us what your question is.
I went down onto, 3-13-5 on B, line 102. And it says items for sale. Only food and beverage items and merchandise branded with the mobile food vending logos such as apparel or beverage containers may be sold from units.
So I
Now,
guess that means they can't sell Lululemon out of it.
well, can you sell a USU t-shirt out of them? If you're
Yeah,
not,
I had a question about that as well.
so I'm concerned that, are we too restrictive here? Cause how many
And who's gonna police
styrofoam
it?
cups, generic you buy at Sam's, are they gonna sell a drink out of a window in? Or a styrofoam, tray with a fold over lid that you put a taco in and
I don't
hand
think
it.
they sell the carton though, that's just part
No,
of their
but
business
what it
operation.
says, only food items merchant branded with the mobile food vending logos.
So food and beverage items and merchandise isn't like serving materials. I don't think,
No.
merchandise is like swag. Like if
So
you-
how
Well,
do
it's
you
like
brand
t-shirts.
food?
It's
How do you-
like
How do you brand
hats.
food?
You don't, but
You
a
don't.
branded merchandise is like,
So what if you sell a bottle of Pepsi?
if they had a swig, um, food truck, they would only sell like swig cups and swig coasters and swig t-shirts and swig merchandise.
So I think it's the food and beverage is one item,
Mhm.
and the merchandise, branded merchandise is the other item. So
Because
there's
there's a
three
comma.
items, there's
What
food,
breaks it?
beverage, and branded merchandise.
Why would we care?
So you're worried that they're gonna sell like
Well, I don't
a
know.
Coke product and they shouldn't be selling something that's branded Coke because it's not branded swig. Is that what you're saying?
What
I,
they're trying to
I think we're
prohibit,
being too restrictive myself.
what they're trying to prohibit is they can sell their, whoever, they can sell Coke, they can sell whatever of that. But when it comes to branded merchandise,
It needs to be their own.
you don't wanna have them getting on Oriental Trading and buying stuff and then selling it out to the customers unless it's specifically branded. Or if it's food truck, Love Your Rice, you would wanna have them selling Love Your Rice t-shirts, Love Your Rice, whatever. You wouldn't want them selling random items. Because then they're not just a food truck vendor, then they turn
Yeah,
into
a
more of
retail
a
shop.
variety vendor or something like that. So they're getting away from the purpose of food truck and they're turning into,
Then they fit under a different license than
Yeah.
food truck license.
Well, we don't.
So that could be
Yeah.
allowed, but that's under a different, business license than food truck business license.
Do they get that license with our city, or they just have one that?
No, they would get it
Covers
with
all
our
the
city if
city.
they don't have one,
But if they have one from another city, they can still,
right?
we honor there's reciprocity,
How does,
so
what
we
does
honor
this have
those.
to do with like mobile oil change, food type business? Doesn't
Nothing.
it? Cause at the top it just said mobile. Or it's say, after, mobile business. After ice cream truck and mobile business, so.
So there are businesses that come around and detail your car.
probably should say mobile food business.
Mobile.
What number were you on?
Just on line 11, maybe mobile food business, if this is all food.
Ice cream truck and mobile business.
Enclosed
We're
mobile
talking
business.
about food.
So we don't wanna be in the business of telling them what they can sell. if we're. If they're a mobile business. Now, if this is just food truck, then we need to take. To further define mobile business, right?
Yeah, I'll just.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
And these are just these are just referencing the definitions to use for this. Not that that's what, it's not defining anything, it's only showing and saying. These definitions are referenced here.
And they're in the state code, so I'll have to look and see how the state code, because mobile food trucks, mobile vendors, that's regulated highly by the state code. So we're kind of limited on some of the stuff we can change because of the way it reads in state code. But I will make sure that I didn't miss a word or something.
But we can be more clear than state code, can't we?
We can generally be more restrictive than
Right, we
state code,
can't
but I
be
don't know if we
more
can actually change the term.
Oh,
So
You
I'll,
can't be less restricted, but you can be more restrictive as
yeah,
long as you don't screw up some other codes. So coming back to this. If we're done with that other, it says only food and beverage items, comma. And merchandise branded with the mobile food vending logos. Now, I'm not talking about merchandise branded with mobile food vending logos. Only food and beverage items such as apparel or beverage containers branded with the mobile food logos can be sold. Am I missing that the beverage and the food has
Purposes
any
Coca-Cola.
kind of branding or label on it? It is not required.
I wouldn't think you'd brand,
So
I don't
why,
expect to have a branded hamburger.
what are we trying to do here with this statement? Are we trying to say that
I think we're-
that if you're gonna sell any type of merchandise other than food and beverage, it has to be branded
With
With
your
that
logo.
food truck, yeah,
with that logo?
right. So at that point, we're reducing the definition of food truck is a beverage or food. Or their branded merchandise. But it's food and beverage. It's not everything under the sun, because that would be a different business license, but this is for food and beverage. And also anything that is branded theirs to build their, like if I get on the hook, drives into town, they sell me a meal, I don't expect to have anything branded on the meal, but if I want an on the hook t-shirt, that's okay, but if I want a Nike pair of shoes and they're selling that, it's probably
What
not.
if you want a
food truck.
Snicker bar?
that falls under
Under
the food
food.
and beverage.
So we're okay with that.
I think
Why
that's
can't
fine.
they sell Nike shoes?
Well, that's the question.
They probably
If they're
could.
selling Nike shoes,
Yeah,
they're probably
Nike
more of
got
a solicitor. They're probably more a solicitor or a commercial business license.
Okay, it's just a different.
Or a
license.
transient merchant.
Or a transient merchant.
I just,
Okay.
I feel that there's some confusion in that statement. And maybe it's just me that gets confused.
No, I think when I read that, it looks to me like it says that also the food and beverage items need to be branded with a logo. So maybe we could clarify, making that a separate statement or something. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, it confused me. Of course, it doesn't take a lot to confuse me anymore. But, anyway, that, I think that needs some clarification.
We'll work on it. Okay. And what line was that again?
102.
102 and 103. That's all I had.
On line 31, temporary nature and must be able to be removed. So we're not gonna require that they remove them every day, but it needs to be possible. Okay,
That's the word
That's the
mobile.
way it says.
okay.
Any requirements for restroom facilities? Do they do that?
No.
None. Okay, just curious.
That's why they're mobile. They don't want to clean bathrooms.
They don't want to provide that.
Right.
I mean, I know the food truck place over there at the split. I think they have bathrooms on site.
At the Y, they have some porta potties, yeah.
Yeah.
They certainly could. But I don't know that I don't know there's a.
But that's a different, that's,
Under prohibited acts. Under A, the last line says vendors, however, shall not serve food directly to customers from such an outside and food preparation area. So they can't like give you a
If they've
hamburger
got-
right off the grill?
if they've
They
got
have
a
to hand it
smoker.
in?
If they've got a smoker, you can't just serve it right off the smoker. It's gotta be distributed
Gotta go
out.
into the truck and out.
Yeah, we require that at Macy's.
Hmm.
Macy's has to do that.
That's kind of a health safety.
Oh, I'm sure it's a health department thing, but it just seems like, okay. I want to hot off the smoker.
When we used to grill at the snack stand, we would sometimes have an outdoor grill going, but we still had to bring the food in and finish the prep and do it inside and sell it out. That was,
Yeah.
part of the food handler regulations.
Will this apply to vendors at a city celebration?
Probably so.
So that. the
You mean if
license-
if somebody wanted to come to the city celebration and just have like a bake sale and just set a table up at the bake sale, is that
And a
your?
booth,
A booth?
yeah.
selling
wouldn't
food,
apply to
vending
them.
Food,
Well, it's not a mobile thing.
The booth.
It's a booth.
so a
Very
mobile has a definition. Wheels, removable. But there are, you know,
so. Sorry,
Right.
finish what you're saying.
anyway, there are people who come into the city celebration, they're mobile, is the same rule gonna apply to them?
If we do require the vendors, by state code, they have to do a sale of, even if that vendor has a business license and a sales tax number, if they go to a event, like a city celebration or something, there's a special tax that they form that they have to fill out and pay specifically for that event. Their sales and use tax for that event. So it wouldn't matter if a mobile truck could certainly come to our event, but they would still have to pay, they'd have to do some certain different things with sales and use tax. If it was somebody's bake sale and they're a nonprofit, we generally don't get into that. They changed the rules a few years ago on, I can't remember how you have to label it homemade or something like that. But if they're a business that hits all the events and stuff, then we ask them to show their business license from whatever community they're
And the
licensed
fire-
in.
Once they have fire inspections, good usually for a year, but they'd have to have a notification they've had the fire inspection, especially if they have a suppression system or something like that, or there's fire.
The mobile food vendors definitely have to have that.
Have their
A
fire
health
extinguishers
department
back.
inspection and a fire inspection has to be available for us to see.
Okay,
I have a question about the conditional use. So if somebody organizes an event within the city, say it's a neighborhood party and they invite a food truck for their neighborhood party, are they supposed to get the conditional use permit? If it's like up in the neighborhood
Or
or
number, yeah,
it's like once it's on line 64?
64.
Is the business supposed to get a conditional use permit to come to that event? Like if somebody was having a thing at, well, I guess recreation would be Von Bear Park.
Would it be on the
but-
street or like pulled in onto their private property or what?
Well,
Either.
I've seen the neighborhood that does it in a cul-de-sac, like once a month also. So
Conditional
they
use
invite
permits
them
are-
different-
Are for that property, so the property owner will get the conditional use. Right, because it's by property.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that is similar to what Logan Cities, so I used the state code and then I tried to use a lot of Logan Cities.
So whoever's organizing the event gets the conditional use permit.
Yes,
Right, and then it stays with the property.
Okay.
So then they can have whatever food trucks they wanted. They just would have to know how to make sure it was in compliance with whatever the conditions were.
so right now, there's nothing saying that you have to do it by conditional use. But then you're opening the door for anybody to come and park there without being invited by a neighborhood party or something like that. So that's why it's a conditional use instead of a permitted use, is because we just,
Right. we just don't want 'em
unless you don't care.
Setting up shop in place.
And if you don't care if Off the Hook parks up on Grandview Drive one day and over on Eagle View another day, then we wouldn't need to do permitted use if you don't care. But if you do care, then we need to keep it the way it is. If you do care about what they're doing in the residential neighborhoods.
So ice cream trucks, they can't just drive around. in their
Ice
residential-
cream trucks get to drive around.
Oh, they do get to
Yeah.
drive.
Where's that one?
Do they have to? Does anyone else think ice cream trucks are a nuisance?
Oh, they are a nuisance.
They're kind of creepy as a
I
mom.
don't know what you did, Ryan.
I
We
love
know
to
they're-
buy ice cream out of the ice cream truck. I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't you love it when your kids are all running in for $5 each for an
Yeah.
ice cream?
Absolutely, I run out with them. I don't know what you're talking about. I run
No.
out with them.
And not me, man. I'm like, we can go get that at Walmart for half the price.
And that
You know how
taco
much,
truck.
you know how much ice cream
My
I eat?
house anytime it wants to. So,
What's that?
The
same with
truck.
taco truck, park in front of my house anytime it wants to.
If you don't care,
Saturdays
that's
are
just
best.
been permitted
If
throughout
you're
the city,
listening.
and as long as they're mobile and moving around.
Yeah,
Sounds like he wants.
They
to-
just have to stop while they're serving your
Just
taco.
just for 30 minutes.
Just
and then you can
certain,
go to the
certain
next
ones,
step.
I think is what he's saying.
I'm
Like to
fine.
be selective on
I just want you to understand, you don't have to make them conditional use. You could have all of them permitted, but if it's all of them permitted, then it's any mobile food vendor that comes to town can go park
Set up
anywhere
shop in your
they
neighborhood.
want, as long as they meet, they stay out of the travel path and all that kind of stuff, so.
But at that point, they still have to park where there's a need or a want for them, because they don't make much money if
Just
there's
sitting
not a
there.
need or a want.
I gotta tell you a little horse story.
Okay, but
So,
it's being recorded and widely advertised here.
We wanna get out here by 8 too, so.
okay, I won't.
No, go.
Oh.
I want to hear your story.
We'll take it
What's the
offline.
meeting? I'll tell you.
Okay, so anything else on this? Is it ready to go to public hearing?
Well, so do you want conditional use or do you want permitted use? I'm fine either
I think
way.
conditional is fine. I just wasn't clear on who was supposed to get that conditional use permit, but I think you explained that. If it was the resident in that zone or if it was the vendor,
It's the rest.
it's the resident.
Because presumably the resident is the one asking them to come.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
So it-
conditions based on the property and the land, so it's specific to the property.
Okay.
is it ready for prime time?
Fine with citizens looking at it.
Okay,
Yeah. we can look at
that can go to public hearing as well.
Yep.
Okay, we've moved through all of our items. The last one is, staff reports. So, Ty? Are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You've been really quiet.
Yeah, that's part of my job, stay quiet. So you guys just passed 3 items for public hearing. Do you guys want them all on the same date? Do you want to split them up, or how would you like to go about those public hearings?
I have to vote for all at the same time.
Yeah, get it, fill the house.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay. That. Next thing, just some clarification on the Justice Court. Ryan mentioned Paul Larson, Judge Larson from Hiram. He is actually just covering court on this coming Monday. He won't be the interim judge for the time being. I'm still trying to work that out. A lot of the justice court judges here in the valley have court on Mondays, which is when we have court. So there's a good chance that we may have to change the day of our court. I just want to make sure you guys are okay with that.
I think we can be flexible because it's just
I think we have to
interim,
be
it's just
flexible.
temporary.
Yeah,
So-
perfect. So I'm currently reaching out to the Wellsville judge, Judge Flores. Right now, we're thinking about Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. He likes to do his court all online, all through WebEx. We've done that before, of course, with COVID. Currently, we're doing in-person hearings, but again, is that okay if our justice court moves completely to online court?
I think as long as we have some precedent on it, let's be flexible, yes.
Again, yeah, this would just only be for the next, few months until we figure out what we're doing permanently. So yeah, so that's all I have. Just trying to work out some of the justice court issues and get that established until we figure out what we want to do permanently. So, do you guys have any questions?
Just how's baby?
Doing good, doing really good. So,
That's great.
thanks.
Okay, Public Works? Thank you, Ty.
Thank you.
Well, our entire public works department has devoted pretty much all their efforts towards tireless snow plowing and truck maintenance.
I like the tireless part.
They've put in a lot of hours. It's rough. We don't typically get a lot of overtime in public works. I mean, there's water leaks and sewer backups and emergency situations through all the seasons, but it doesn't amount to a lot of overtime. They really typically don't get a lot of overtime in public works until we hit these waves of storms that just keep us up plowing more than they want to, for sure.
I may be prejudiced, but I don't think I am. I was all over the valley today and Providence had the clearest roads by far. Your team is doing so well. I'm so grateful.
I'm
Thank you.
glad
I
you
agree.
said
Thank
that,
you.
And I'll still put our account up against just about anybody in this
Oh,
valley, even though
I would, for sure.
we certainly got a lot of complaints today, so. It's been a little bit rough on the phones, so to speak, but the whole valley got clobbered in a rough way, so. So the secretary, give them kudos, because they've answered a lot of rough complaints today that really shouldn't have came in, but people like to speak their mind sometimes. But we
I
wind the
think I'm
road.
not a secretary.
Winding
Never
roads
hire me, Ryan.
Is
Good
very,
thing you're not fielding calls, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
but spread the word to your neighbors. Widening the roads is very necessary to prepare for those next storms, because if you don't, the roads won't get widened and it'll break our trucks. So unfortunately, driveways get snow in them. And the plow drivers, they have the same problem at their own houses, but they are doing it at midnight when those 5 hours of sleep are finally getting. So just spread the word that, when it comes right down to it, those plow drivers do not intentionally like pushing the snow into driveways. But a lot of people seem to think they do. And so I just want to throw that out there, because we've got
Is that the nature of the complaints that you're getting?
quite a few, yes. And the complaints I get from my guys are the people that are putting the snow out into the road. That's very frustrating for a snow plower to see that, all their tireless efforts are suddenly clobbered with a tractor that decided to just spread a big mess all over the place, and it uses a lot more salt. It freezes up, it turns into ice chunks, and we break trucks and things like that, so.
Is there anything that we should do about that? For example, I was on the way here today and drove by a house that someone was throwing all their snow into the road. And I wanted to stop and be like, hey,
Yeah.
that's illegal.
Yell out the window.
But,
Okay,
but
yell out-
what
you-
should,
You don't know if they've got a gun in their pocket.
but what
That's the problem.
should we do?
If you keep your calm about it, it actually is a good thing to spread the word. I stop and I let people know quite often that you're not supposed to do that. You just gotta keep your cool and be smart about how you approach that aspect because it can be very confrontational, so. So the right person to do that is great, but some people aren't real good at communicating that.
I'm excited to go to school board meetings now.
Yeah.
So how does a late start affect this, like when they say, oh, it's really snowy, late start, that's a good thing for you when they start it?
Well, then our
Everyone
exception
stays home
around
and-
schools isn't present, right? Because if they're not in
Right.
session, then around the schools, nobody should be there and it's not allowed for that.
But late starts wouldn't.
Generally, it would
better
help
for you,
our
right? It would help your
situation, yes.
situation.
Yeah.
Cause you can
we
get to
start-
something else first and then go
We
back to
start
the
at
school.
3:34 AM typically, and the
And
longer we have to
more
get
streets
things
are gonna be
cleared up,
cleared
the
by
better,
the time they have to.
better it's gonna be for the school
Yeah.
surrounding.
Oh, I was pushing for that late start. I
think they're gonna-
don't like.
My kids have been pushing for canceled.
The late start counts as a school day, so then we.
Right, so then you don't
Let's
roll
make it
into-
up.
Just turn it to Zoom that day, just broadcast. it.
Online.
I'll
Cool.
push for some of those late starts.
Anything that you can think of that we can do to help? Obviously, we're all on board to do that, so.
Just help enforce those codes and spread the words on those particulars when it comes to parking and snow in the roads. That seems to be the biggest gripe of my fleet drivers, so. And we've got, two very, very rookie drivers, and so there's some learning curves that we're going through, so. Some complaints might have some merit, so I don't throw them all right out. I do some investigating before I throw myself off the handle, but. We do have some broken down trucks. There's been a lot of maintenance related to this type of a storm, so those trucks are running 15, 20 hours a day. Very violent to a truck way, so we've had a lot of down trucks, but we've been able to piece them back together and try to keep a full fleet going as much as possible. So we're working on it.
I've asked this question before. I'm a slow learner, so, I think you've told me before, and I feel like there was a diagram in a newsletter before about if you clear a pocket on one side or the other of your driveway, it helps you not get such a big pile up when the plow goes past.
It's very true.
So which side is it? Cause I can't remember. Is it?
Is
Is
there
it-
One on the
is
back
it
side
on-
of you.
It's the
Because then
second
you never
side.
get it.
It's the second side that the truck passes. Is
Right.
that-
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, cause we typically stay on the, right side of the road and plow to the right. Not always, especially at dark 30, we'll skip across and rotate the blades around a little bit more. But for the most part, we plow. off
So
to
then
the
what
right,
happens
so-
is the snow that you put on that second goes further down the road.
If you put more snow on the backside of your driveway when it comes to the flow of the traffic on that lane, your neighbors to the downstream side of you is gonna get the extra snow.
Okay,
But if the neighbor
Just let me know.
upstream from you does it,
I
then you
think I've
get
got
their
the
snow.
physics in my mind. We'll see.
I'm gonna come up and look. I want to see how this works out for you.
Well, then I will be doing my storm drain clearing duty too, so.
Yeah, please, do it all the way to the storm drain.
You have quite a bit of space between your driveway and the next driveway, don't you?
Yes,
So you're okay that way.
won't block my mailbox with my positioning.
I really could honestly say that, our citizens really have it good.
Yeah, they do.
Because, what gets put in their driveway is not a serious matter. My daughter lives on Highway 91 out in College Ward, and there's 3 lanes on her side, 2 travel lanes and a.
And it's all
Turning
going in
lane.
her driveway at high
And
speed.
she's got 2 entrances and, it
Yeah.
fills both of them. So, yeah, our citizens really need to thank their lucky stars. Their roads are as good as they are. They can get around like they can and be happy. All they got to do is move a little snow out of their driveway and be thankful for it. And stop all the complaining and griping about snow that comes off their road. That's my feelings about it.
Well, thanks for your support.
We do support all of you.
We should
That's all I have.
bring you some snacks. Or long nights,
Thanks.
something.
I've delivered my own before. So Shaler does the sidewalk snow removal. If he's not available, so Colton will do it, and sometimes Ken Ford will, and Public Works will do it, but just so that you know, the Kubota unit that we use for the sidewalk, it has a plow on it, but it doesn't have a bucket that you can lift to move the snow. So with the snow that we've had the last few days, Shaler's working really hard to clean the frontage of city property. However, it's to the point that he can't
Scrape it up.
scrape it up over.
Yeah.
And so he's getting stuck. And so he's kind of had to pull back a little bit just because we physically can't do it right now. The other problem that he's facing, and we haven't had, the people complain to us yet, but I'm sure they will. In some areas where we're up against a commercial, property, they will plow their snow out and they block the sidewalk. And so he tries to break through that, but he can't always make that happen either. And so we're trying to work with those vendors, or those businesses and their snow removal people to not do that. But if you do get complaints, let us know, but we are working on it. We're trying to keep the sidewalks as clean and safe as possible too. He's really put the focus on the school, the sidewalks near the school and where the kids walk to school to try and keep not every sidewalk, because the private property owners should be keeping most of it, but the ones that are adjacent to city property, he's working really hard to keep up with those, but we are in a little bit of a conundrum right now, so we're working on that.
So does he take that up like into the neighborhoods where we have like the
Yes.
detention ponds? He does take that up there too.
Where city property would.
Where
be.
city property,
Like,
Not just residents not doing their own, but we're doing it.
right,
City
but
property.
like up on, 1,000. South
yes,
And 4th East, that's city property, right? That corner pond?
yes.
And there's another one over.
But it's
on
not one,
Center
it's
Street.
kind of, 1,000 South is a priority road for the snowplows, but it's not necessarily a priority road for the sidewalks.
Right.
Because he's working on the walk to school sidewalks, not the,
I just didn't know if those were an easement into another property owner.
some of them
To do
are,
the corner, or if that was a city.
some of them are, but that particular one is actually city property.
Mhm.
So there's one over on Edge Hill that's actually an easement that the property owner has to maintain, but the one on 4th East and 1,000 South is city property. So, but anyway, he is working really hard on it. I submitted our moderate income housing report today.
Thank you.
I am gonna take a minute and vent because I've gone through this report 4 times,
At least.
working with the state people. I went to submit the report today and I got an error that said it was too big and I couldn't submit my report. So I emailed them. Now granted, every time that I've submitted, they've told me I had to give more description. So they've told me I had to add words, which I've done. And, so I emailed them and I get an email back and they're very nice. It's just frustrating. The people are nice, but the situation is frustrating. And she said, because she had told me that I couldn't just submit the Word document reports that I'd done. I have to do it through the online portal, which I totally get and understand because we make people do stuff through our online portals all the time too. Well, their online portal has a word cap. And they failed to tell me that it had a word cap.
Plus they're pushing you to put more words in.
Yes. And so what I ended up doing is the last two, we have 7 strategies. I think that might be part of our problem. A lot of communities, in our boat would have only needed to do, 3. And if you wanted to get special grant privileges, you'd do 5. And we were overachievers and did 7. And so I think that added some word count that maybe some of the other communities wouldn't have had to worry about. But the last 2, I ended up sending them via email, my Word document. So what I did is I took a picture of the portal page showing that I'd actually tried to enter it in the portal with the little note that said it wouldn't work, and sent that to her as well. So she's got all kinds of documentation why our report did not go through the portal, the whole report. Most of it did.
Bits and pieces.
2 strategies had to be submitted by email instead of through the portal. So if there's any repercussion, I just wanted you to know that's the story behind it. I wasn't trying to be a dummy or anything, but
We've all got your back.
I just have a question, Scarlett, because we've met with Senator Wilson, we've met with Representative Snyder, we've sent letters down to Salt Lake to various bodies and entities about the issues with this moderate income housing. After going through this arduous process, do you feel like you have learned anything to make next time be a better experience or to go smoother?
Not that you
Or
can
is
be
it
different.
just like
Years.
a heap of busy work?
But this is not what you
Do
need
you
to
feel
learn.
like
This is
you,
what
okay,
they
I
need to
probably
learn.
should
Right,
say
but that's what I'm
this on
saying,
the
like, if
record. Put you through this whole process.
For what?
Has any learning happened to make the next report? You'll feel like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get it next time because I learned this and this and this, and that's gonna actually make me successful.
well, I hope so. But one thing that I did learn that I don't think was intended, they don't really seem to be interested in results. They just seem to be interested. If we said it was a step we were going to do, we need to prove that we did it. Whether it's a step that was important to get the result, so I can't remember which one it was, but we could show that we had used that I think it was the one where we said we would use Bear River Association of Governments and things like that, and support their programs. And so I called them up and I got the documentation as to how many people had, and we don't have a lot of people that use those programs, those assistant programs, but I called them up and got actual numbers from them. And they did tell me, oh, you actually got numbers. Not a lot of people do that. And I thought, well, how do they answer the report and why did mine fail then?
Yeah.
But that wasn't included in one of the steps. So they really didn't seem to be important.
Result driven. It wasn't result
No,
driven.
it was, wouldn't you think that's a fair
Yeah,
statement?
it's not result driven. It is making sure that you have done what you said you would do, regardless of whether that's right or wrong or what you learned. Whatever the result was, didn't really matter. It's much more about,
Going through the,
about
Jumping through the
you
hoops.
did.
Just strategies,
right?
So being very deliberate and intentional about the,
Well, that's not helpful.
no, about about the proposed strategy. It sounds a lot like student community council.
Yeah, the more detail we were, the worse it was.
Every LPC meeting, I bring this up. Why are you beating the cities up to do things that we have no control over?
I don't know if they're beating all the cities up.
Just us?
But I'll give you
No, but they're
another,
making us
I'll give you
responsible.
another example. The title, the strategy, the overall strategy that we picked was that we would reduce parking regulations in our mixed use zones and make it easier for mixed use development. And then part of the steps talked about doing our PUDs and our cluster and our interblock development. So I used 3 examples that we'd approved over the year, mixed use, and I said, this is a mixed use development with 32 residential units in it, or however many units there were. And then I also gave the results of a cluster development and an interblock development that we did. And they sent back and said, tell me about this development. Was it a PUD? Or, and it was the mixed use one. Was it a PUD or a cluster or an inner block?
No, it was mixed use.
And so I just sent back, this was a mixed use development. It was not a PUD, a cluster, or an inner block. Which added words. I got cat.
That you got penalized for.
But
So I
honestly,
wonder who you're dealing with down at the state.
So you don't feel like they're actually reading what you write?
oh, they're definitely reading.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they
They're
are,
just
but you
not.
just said that it was gonna be mixed use, and then you reported that it was mixed use. And then they asked for clarification, what was this, when you already stated it? So
Yeah,
that implies they didn't actually read it,
Or that they didn't understand
Yeah.
what mixed use.
or they don't,
They don't understand that code or that zone.
well, they should understand, because that's what the governor's pushing is mixed use.
so,
Made public statements to that.
so yes,
effect.
I learned some things. Will the report go smoother next time? I hope so. I'm actually working on changing the staff reports for planning commission so that we actually talk about the different strategies that are involved and make sure that, so that when I go back, I can document what meeting we talked about, what strategy and things like that, because it wasn't good enough to say we approved this many units. I needed to say they talked about it in this meeting. So, so yes, I learned some stuff like that. I really
Right.
do think though, that this report, I think that cities should have to be accountable for what they said they were going to do. But I think if a city answers every question and gives a reasonable answer, I don't think the report should be rejected. Now, we might not answer our report the way Nibley does, and we shouldn't be expected to, because they look at different things than we do. But the fact that we both answer a question and we both show that we've done work, that should be
That should be
acceptable.
sufficient.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel like that's the case. So
So they're looking for a definite answer from all cities to a degree.
they were from us, that's all I can tell you. And honestly, they were nice women. I don't fault them as far as they were nice to work
Just
with.
power mongers.
I just had a tough time really understanding what they were looking for, was my problem. I was,
Maybe they have the same problem on there,
Actually, the same
on the
thing.
top end.
They didn't know what they were looking for.
well, I do know that they don't want to, that's why the state code changed to say that the strategies that we use have to be verbatim out of the state code. Because they didn't want to look at a city's wording and say, well, does that really mean what that state code strategy said? They didn't want to have to do that. And so
Makes sense.
they changed the state code. Well, they don't really want to do that on our objectives either, on our individual goals. So I did learn that if we said we were going to advertise for Bragg, I needed to put in there, we advertised for Bragg. Oh, and I needed to put in there, we went to specific trainings. I generalized the trainings, said that the staff went, and we all went to different trainings, and I said what trainings there were. I had to redo that, say the council did this training, the staff did this training. So there, it was just,
Nitpicky.
yeah, it was more, less result oriented and more detail oriented.
It'd be much better if they just gave us multiple choice.
Let's
I really
reject
did
that.
feel like saying, you've got all my information, how about you just write your answer? Because I was at a loss towards the end, and I apologize for that, but, anyway.
Just have to say thank you. I know it's been frustrating for you, and I know that it's been difficult to continue to get it back. It's kind of like they're making an example of us.
Well, I do think, in fact, I'm not holding my breath that we'll pass. I met all their requirements, and so I said, okay, now that I've got all these 7 strategies back, when I download them and put them into the portal, we'll be compliant, right? And they said, no, we can't say that until after we've reviewed how it comes through the portal. So I honestly don't know. I do know that they really wanted Ryan and I to request that the council appeal it. They wanted to have somebody challenge, I think, so it could give them some definition. And we didn't take that route. So I don't know if they'll pursue that or not. But
Keep us posted.
well, I'm sure they will send you an email before they send it to me.
You'll know before we do.
Dear,
So, but anyway,
thank you
that's,
for your work.
that's that. Yeah, well, and if it fails, I really do apologize. I mean, I will do better next year if it fails, but that's where we're at.
Just know we got your back.
You may not get this one done before next year.
No, it's done. I
Oh,
can't, I don't have another
You don't have
chance.
any more chances.
So if they,
Our only chance is appeal after that.
yeah,
Okay.
if they fail it, then we have to appeal it. So we'll hope that they show mercy on me and think that I finally tried good enough.
We're gonna send her to, telepathy, no, how to read somebody else's mind. We're gonna send her to that.
Mentalist,
Mentalist,
mentalist.
yeah.
Mind reading.
I do think though, you asked me, I think that I do not think that this new idea about first-time home buyers should be treated the way this moderate income housing plan is being treated. And that's what they're proposing, is that they want us to track first-time home buyers and how many use, yeah, that governor's stuff. And that,
Why don't they track it? The banks,
probably
they could
do.
require the banks to give them that
And that's where
information.
you'd be more apt to track it,
That's
is if
right.
the lending institutions.
The lending institutions can give
rather
them
than
that.
us.
Well,
Yeah,
they are in the legislative policy committee. That's one of the options, is to have it tracked similar to how we're doing moderate income housing. And I do think if we have any push, we just say, no, we're not gonna track new
We're
home,
not in the banking
New-
business.
home buyers. The problem part too with it is it has to be a new build. So if I'm a first-time home buyer and I wanna go buy a fixer-upper, and then I can't get that first-time home buyer, I don't qualify for their time home buyer plan. I may qualify through one of the other lending institution plans, but not the way the state has it set up. And so I really,
and that comes.
I
from
don't
the
think we
builder's
should have
side.
to yes.
Yes, it does.
And Governor Cox thinks that the builders are going to take a pay cut and reduce the price of their homes so that people can afford them. I just don't think we should be in the first-time home buyer reporting business.
He's drinking the wrong Kool-Aid.
Well, I think, I'm not going to say that. I do think that it's important that people have a means to be able to get into certain homes and qualify and have a place to live. I don't want anybody to be in the blue shelter. But I don't think that we are the place to track some of that stuff. I think a lot of it's out of our control. Especially when we have zoned and zoned and zoned, and we still get,
$400,000 and $500,000 little homes.
yeah,
Condos.
yeah. So, but anyway, that's my concern about the moderate income housing plan, is I would hope that the first time home buyer plan does not go that same route. So,
And they want you to do all that extra work while reducing the costs. And anything to do with new houses. Go figure,
And why do they have to be brand new? Why can't they be fixer-uppers?
because the builder.
It's exactly right. Thank you.
I hope they come
Skylar.
up with first time truck built buyers, credit
EVs.
next,
I'm going for EVs.
first time EV.
But they have to build some more EV plug-in stations.
It would be awesome if there was a reasonable solution for people who are time home buyers to buy a house that was reasonably priced without, investors picking it up or first time home buyers buying it for a great price and then just reselling it for an inflated price. But there's no easy solution to that, and especially not one that cities hold.
We don't live in Russia. We live in America.
Well, it's just, I'm not gonna dispute the program. I just don't think we should have to report on it the way we're reporting on the moderate income housing. In fact, I personally don't think we should have to report on the moderate income housing. They can look and see what kind of units we have in our city.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind telling them we have this many condominiums, this many townhomes, this many apartments. But to say we took these steps to get this met, they don't wanna know how many, they just wanna know the steps we took to try and encourage moderate income housing. So that's the part that I struggle with.
Can I say too, on these codes, the codes that we're looking at tonight, I know that you played a big part in that. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't alone. I mean, Ty did some homework, Esther did homework on some of them, Ryan helped. It was a matter of researching a couple of different communities. That's probably the reason why there's municipal and community instead of.
But that's why we look at them now, is
Instead of
to
one
make sure
word,
we're
so-
consistent.
But it was a staff effort, but I
Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate the fact that you looked at it, but I
All
can't
while
thank
you were
all
doing
the-
moderate income reports.
Yeah, well, that was my.
Moderate housing.
From not thinking about that one.
Thank you for all you do, Scarlett.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
And the fact remains is that the people who can buy homes has shifted from 20-somethings to 30-somethings that both have jobs. I mean, that's the reality of it.
And lots of times it's not the brand new custom built home that is.
That a first-time buyer. That's right.
First time home buyer, so,
Right.
um,
First-time home buyers buy the ones that the people who have more money that can buy the $400,000 and $500,000 homes can get.
And if you do reduce the price, you get the investor.
Right. Okay, so,
my report.
yes, I do. You're
Okay.
next.
So a few things. One, I'll start with fiber. We have 1,050 plus, customers on fiber, continues to rise at 50 or so, a month. We're continuing to see that. We've worked on a survey. We're gonna try to send out to see, there's a gap between those that are connected and those that have drops. This is not that, schedule yet. So I'll get to what I just pulled up. Fiber, we're making progress. Rob and I have spent several days, over the last couple of weeks, going out and inspecting the installation of fiber. We trucked through the snow today for hours, and we've been, very detailed to make sure that we have a good quality product in the end. And, so we're still working on making sure that happens. And it's been a very lengthy process to make sure. Anyway, transitioning to this, I realize you've already approved the rate schedule, and I appreciate that. I am a nerd, and I have spent the last 5 to 6 months getting ready for that small amount of time to adopt that, and I think that's great. But I would show you just a few pieces of the puzzle. This one here is our stormwater. And what I've got here is, if you hadn't adopted a rate increase now, by 2040, we would have zero cash. We couldn't fund our projects. We could not have funded an ongoing maintenance to our stormwater project. Because of the rate increase that you adopted, at that just a small 3% over time, because you've adopted that, it makes it so the fund is, solvent and able to continue to cash flow the projects over time. We've got projects that we've expected through our master plan. We've had to spread those out. If we had more funding, we could put those together, but we've had to spread those out over that period of time, over that 30 years.
Is that the green?
The green is the project, yes.
So what's that big one?
The black,
No,
The big spike in the green.
What
Oh.
project is that big?
I'd have to
one?
look for the
Oh, okay.
specific project. I could do that, and it's in here, and I could look at that. But at this point, they are projects. So basically, storm drain lines, adding things to our roads. But based on that, you can see that without a rate increase, but I have this done for every single fund and every, revenue source, and expenses throughout the year. So I have basically, with the help of this software, have basically done a 30-year budget to make sure that our rates were sufficient. So anyway, just so you're aware that there's a lot of work that goes into what we presented tonight.
Absolutely.
On the garbage one, because Waterworth wasn't detailed into that and didn't have all the pieces, I met with their CEO for several hours, and we worked jointly on making sure that we had everything down to the volume of trash in a particular can and the amount of that tippage, and what it would cost to take the truck to to every location throughout the city and that. So it does have, and I know I'm a nerd on spreadsheets, so I'm just kind of overviewing to let you know the volume of the detail that went into some of these. And these were just, all of these different rates were just the calculations in order to fit into our model. And then we went and built the model from there. So keep in mind at this point now I have the ability to say that your rates are sufficient, with what we've done. The rate should be sufficient for us over the next 30 years that we have projected a high level budget rate structure calculation. So anyway, just so you're aware, they aren't just picked out. We don't just pick a number. And I know you didn't think that, but I do like to make sure that people are aware there's a lot of detail that goes behind this. So anyway, over the last months, that has been ongoing to try to get us ready for your vote. So anyway, and this is the season that, starting now, between now and the next couple of months, will be another level of grant writing season. So, that is my next, transition to, we'll have the RAPS tax, we'll have the land water conservation grant, we'll have several others that are coming up. Also, the application for grants or for earmarks through the through the federal legislature will start up this season. So we've, the Blake Moore's office has reached out, and I think the mayor and I have that email, of what kind of grants we'd be looking for. And I expect that the sewer treatment plant, that's the only way it becomes feasible, is if we get a grant probably through the federal government to help offset that, to make it a feasible. And so that's our avenue really. So anyway, we appreciate all the support. I really have tried over this last month, and I'll do ongoing, is to try to help you to understand the issues that the staff is receiving, and just kind of informationally feeding you that so that you have that as it goes through us. So hopefully you enjoy, or hopefully you appreciate some of the emails you've gotten. But that is part of my goal, is to try to give you information. Doesn't require your action, but just trying to help with the educational process of, so that you can kind of get it in life over the year. You can kind of understand what what we've gone through and some of the complaints we get and some of the issues we address. So anyway, hopefully it's educational that way. Any questions do you have for me or anything you would like me to, further work on or accomplish?
You're amazing. It
Good
just
job.
blows my mind.
30-year budget, who does that?
I think,
It's
That's
impressive, but it's
wonderful.
so visual, it can talk to
Yeah,
people who don't do numbers. Like me.
You can see where our cash would drop off and we wouldn't be able to afford to continue operating, which we want to avoid. And there are some of those that we have to affect, but then it tells us when we can fund a project or, you know, if we want to stay fiscally responsible, which our general plan indicates that that's part of our guiding principles is fiscal responsibility. This helps us do that. So, you know.
thank you for doing that.
it's good planning. Good planning.
That's it?
That's what I got.
Thanks for going the extra mile with fiber too, like literally,
Yeah.
Within the extra miles.
yeah,
Miles.
in the snow,
Yeah.
uphill both ways.
With no code. Okay, we don't need an executive session tonight, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn our meeting.
Okay, we have a second?
Second,
Second, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
I.
Any opposed?